You're looking at a photograph from 1858. Two young men, the Prescott brothers, lying side by side in their coffins. At first glance, it appears to be a typical post-mortem portrait from Victorian America. But there's something deeply disturbing about this image that would spark investigations across 3 states and challenge everything physicians knew about death. Because when they exhumed these bodies 6 days after burial, the evidence suggested something impossible had occurred underground. Thomas and William Prescott were farmers in rural Pennsylvania, ages 23 and 21. Healthy, strong young men who'd never been sick a day in their lives. In March 1858, both brothers collapsed within hours of each other during a barn raising. The local doctor, Edmund Hartley, examined them that evening. Their pulses were undetectable. Their skin was cold. He pronounced them dead from what he called sudden heart seizure and signed both death certificates. The undertaker, James Morrison, prepared the bodies the next morning. He would later testify that both men showed every sign of death he'd learned to recognize in 15 years of work. The funeral was held 2 days later at the family church. Reverend Samuel Oakes conducted the service before 47 witnesses. The photograph was taken just before the coffins were sealed, a common practice to preserve memory. But Margaret Prescott, the brothers' mother, noticed something during the viewing that made her blood run cold. Thomas's left hand, which had been positioned across his chest, had moved. His fingers were now gripping the coffin's satin lining. The undertaker insisted it was impossible, that rigor mortis had set in. But Margaret refused to allow burial until Dr. Hartley returned. Hartley examined Thomas again. The body remained cold, pulseless. He attributed the hand position to his own faulty memory and authorized burial. The brothers were interred that afternoon in the church cemetery, 6 feet deep in the frozen March ground. For 6 days, Margaret couldn't sleep. She kept seeing that hand, those fingers clutching fabric. Finally, she convinced the church council to permit exhumation. What they found destroyed everyone present. When they opened Thomas's coffin, his hands were bloody and torn. Deep scratches covered the coffin lid's interior. Fabric was wedged beneath his fingernails. His face was contorted in an expression that gravedigger Peter Walsh would describe as pure animal terror. William's coffin told an identical story. Both men had regained consciousness underground and died trying to claw their way out. Dr. Hartley examined the evidence and could offer no medical explanation. By every measurement available in 1858, both men had been legitimately dead when buried. Dr. Marcus Webb, a physician from Philadelphia with expertise in suspended animation, traveled to examine the bodies and review the evidence. He measured the scratches, analyzed the tissue beneath the fingernails, studied the original death certificates. His conclusion, published in the Pennsylvania Medical Journal, stated that both men showed incontrovertible evidence of post-burial consciousness, despite meeting all contemporary standards for death verification. He could not explain how 2 men, dead by every known metric, had awakened in their graves. The official cause of death was recorded as suffocation. The original heart seizure diagnosis was quietly amended. The church buried the photograph in their archives, where it remained hidden for decades. The Prescott family plot was moved to unconsecrated ground. After 167 years, no medical explanation exists for how 2 men, certified dead by multiple witnesses, regained consciousness after burial. Have you ever witnessed something that defied medical understanding? Subscribe to explore more mysteries where science fails to provide answers. Remember, death may not be as final as we believe.